welcome to the ESP podcast. I'm really excited to be joined by Dan today, who has over 20 plus years experience in the tech sales industry, growing and leading fast growth cyber vendors in the UK. This conversation is all around Dan's knowledge, Dan's understanding of sales, what's worked for him as a leader in the cyber industry. It's great to see you, Dan. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very good, Chloe. Lovely to be here. 20 years, that makes me sound very old.
Just makes you experience, no problem. So for people in our network who don't know who you are, introduce yourself. What do you do? Where are you up to at the moment?
Yeah, good morning. My name's Dan Panesar. I'm Chief Revenue Officer for Certes Networks, a very innovative cybersecurity vendor based out of Pittsburgh, but operating globally around the world.
Amazing stuff. So I think we should kick it off with this year, really. Wow, 2023, what a roller coaster of a year we've had already, really. What are your thoughts on this year so far, Dan?
Yeah, look, it has certainly been a challenging year from a sales perspective and a market overall. I think what we're tend to seeing is that there's a lot of projects that were certainly delayed in the first part of the year, while there was a lot of macroeconomic uncertainty, and customers and prospects were taking a lot longer to make decisions. Competition was very, very high in deals, and we saw a lot of what I would call, last minute desperation, where vendors that shall remain nameless would, look to trash a deal on price just to try and secure the win, which isn't always, the best way. But as long as you stick to the, selling value rather than on price, then we've been closing some good deals.
Amazing. As you know, I think that's a really valid point there from this year, and obviously previous to that, everything sort of post-pandemic, that's obviously going to be affecting sales going into this year as well. So that all makes sense. So I think, starting off, 3 sales career lessons. What have you sort of learned along your career over the years? Turning points, milestones. We'll start from there, really.
I think the ones that stick out the most, the first one is a saying that we have is never leave the game early. I think it's imperative that you stick with prospects, stick with customers, stay close to them throughout the journey, because we're seeing, especially now, that those salespeople and organisations that don't walk away when they think that there's nothing happening and stay close to those prospects and customers are the ones that actually reap the benefit of closing and winning opportunities. And, even if opportunities aren't going, to plan, we have recently had a great deal that we signed at the end of May, where initially we weren't chosen to move to POC.
Oh, wow.
But we stayed close to the team involved and the decision maker, and provided snippets of information in the background. And lo and behold, a couple of weeks later, they came back to us and said, "Actually, we want to pilot your solution,
okay,
because it's not gone well with the competition." And I think that is a great example of we could have walked away, we could have lost interest, but we didn't, and that was key. We stayed in the game, and we actually ended up winning that deal.
Amazing. And what do you think you can learn from that, or tell others from that, keeping it consistent? And
I think salespeople and pretty ruthless, but when they feel they're wasting their time, they can often walk away. And I think it's really important that that you have that sort of mindset where you're looking for long-term relationships. You're not looking for short-term gains. You've got to switch away from looking at, short-term KPIs or, revenue, and look more from a strategic perspective on a long-term relationship. Those are the relationships that customers like,
Yeah.
And more importantly, people buy from people. So if when customers truly believe that you empathize with their situation and the challenges that they're facing, and you understand them, and you're in it for the long haul, you're much more likely to have a much better outcome from a sales or deal perspective.
100%. No, that's a really good point there, and I don't know if you want to lead on from that to the post that I actually saw you put out the other day on. It was quite a good post that I saw from you around don't call, just text, which was all about 60% of tech buyers are actually millennials now. So the relationship building side with millennials, it's not just all about the cold calls for salespeople anymore. It's using all these, extra channels to actually get the buyer to have that relationship. What was around the message around that?
Yeah, I took a lot of heat from that, from some people who thought I was bashing cold calling, but the phone is still the most important tool that a sales guy or sales lady has, salesperson has.
Mm.
I think buyers today they're in that millennial or from that millennial era. They've grown up with technology, with the internet, with information at their fingertips. So these sort of buyers, they do a huge amount of research into the solutions or products that they're going to be buying before they're ready to talk to vendors. And so I think it's really important. The most successful vendors are those vendors that have created and executing on a what I would call a demand gen, creating that demand out in the marketplace by providing information about your solution, the problems that it solves, and really giving the buyers as much information to be able to do their research prior to them engaging with any salesperson or sales team.
Yeah.
Therefore, when when they do reach out or they send in a request for a demo, etc., and inside sales jumps on it and books a meeting, they're far more receptive to listening to actually what you want to say.
Yeah. 100%.
And the value that you're going to be able to give them, because they've already done a huge amount of research, and often that could mean going out to between 5 and 7 vendors, and so the more information, the more value that you can provide up front, the greater chance you have of being down selected and then going to POC and whatnot.
Fabulous. So talking about your learning opportunities and what you've learned over your career and everything, what would you say is the biggest mistake or learning opportunity that you might have had? You might have a few answers for this around different scenarios, but in your career, what would you say is the biggest learning opportunity that you've had, really?
I think, firstly, I've made loads of mistakes, hundreds.
Haven't we all?
And I think the main point to highlight here is that it's okay to get things wrong. It's how you grow as an individual. It's how you grow as a team. It's how you grow as an organization. One of the things that sticks in my mind is a saying that I have and use is it's like fail fast. So, make a decision. And if it doesn't go right, then make a decision to change or adapt or pivot or whatever quickly. The worst thing you can do is sit at a road junction in the car or on your bike or wherever, and you can't decide which way, whether you're going to go left or right. You're either going to run out of fuel, it's going to get dark, and you don't know which way, so it's better to make a decision and it be the wrong one, and it's the wrong one, and then you can correct yourself, rather than to not make any decision at all. So that fail fast is something that I talk about a lot. Other learnings, I think one of the biggest things that I've seen over the last few years and things that I've adapted to is that building a team or a sales team, a high-performing sales team, is all around a culture, and it's more around the people. The people within the team have to feel empowered. They have to feel trusted. They have to know that you care.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have those things, you could be, the best salesperson who's then gone into leadership, and you're out there, doing what you think is right from a lead by example perspective. But if the rest of the team don't feel empowered, they don't feel trusted, and they don't feel that you actually, care about them as people, they're never going to care about the mission that you're on as a team or a collective.
100%.
Those are probably two of the biggest, or the biggest things I can talk about, mistakes and learnings that I've had over the last few years.
Amazing. And that leads us quite nicely on to, help me understand what, good sales traits are. We talked the other day about people that you've hired in the past that might have, an excellent sort of sporting background, that, they're really motivated, they're hungry individuals. What makes a good salesperson in your eyes?
Lots of things. I think for me personally, I tend to look at people who have got a ruthless competitive streak. It doesn't mean that they had to have come from a sporting background. I'm from a rugby background. That was, what I played at school and at university and afterwards, and played to a good level. Mm-hmm. So automatically, I personally gravitate towards people who have a passion for a certain sport, or have played any sort of competitive level of sport, because they have that competitive drive. And that's really important in sales, because, that's essentially what we're out there doing day in, day out. You'll know, Chloe, you're out there selling ESP, and I'm out there as well. And you have to have that competitiveness.
Yeah.
Other things that I look for is probably, the cliches around resilience, because, the beauty of sales, and I say this to all, especially people that are entering to sales, that we've all started out at the bottom. We all started out on the phones, booking meetings, doing telesales. It's where I started 20 odd years ago at Aslan. And I say to them that, it's tough. So, but that it doesn't get any easier, and you have to show resilience. The resilience early on, when you're getting told no thousands of times a day or hundreds of times a day on the phone, on an email, etc. And then as you progress through your career, you need to show the resilience and how you bounce back from losing opportunities, from making mistakes, and all of those side of things. So that resiliency is key. And then the last one is trust.
Yeah.
I put a huge, probably the most emphasis on being able to trust people, and having people that can trust me. I'd rather have someone who has a higher level of trust and emotional IQ than someone who's a maverick top performer. Because for me, a successful team, a sales team, is all about having the trust in one another, the camaraderie, all of the things that are necessary that are needed in a team to be successful. Because it's not about individuals. Everyone, has an individual quota, etc., for their territory or country or whatever. But but everyone wins and loses together.
Yeah.
And so those are some of the things that are non-negotiables from a sales or characteristics trait.
Amazing. And I think, going back to your point on resilience, and, we've just chatted around this year, I think everyone in the market has had to have a lot of resilience in their sales jobs. What have you been saying to your salespeople over the last sort of 6 to 12 months? How are you keeping them sort of motivated? And, what tips would you maybe give other sales leaders out there in the market at the moment that maybe have a workforce that are struggling, and, they need to keep that sort of resilience and that mindset around their work?
Yes, good. It has been challenging. Look, the first thing I talk about is what I call world-class basics. Like, there's fundamentals that you have to do day in, day out as a salesperson, as a sales leader. If you're out on the front line, it's pipeline generation, it's prospecting, it's discovery, it's qualification. following up religiously, all of these things around the basics of and fundamentals of sales. Mm. They have to be at a level that is just up there with the best. They'll help you stand out in an organization, and others will want to mimic that. And also, people in other parts of the organization will want to work with you because they know that you're operating at that sort of level. And likewise, when you're out in the market, that will differentiate you in front of prospects and potential customers. So that's the first piece. The second one is that I talk about breaking things down into its simplistic form, because sales can get complicated and sales processes, are very, very complicated. But if you break them down into simpler chunks, they become much more easily manageable and able to be achieved. It's the old saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. It's exactly the same in the sales process. Be ruthlessly simple. Yeah. Break each thing down, and then, chalk off the things that you're good at and play to your strengths, and bring in others around you where you're not so strong.
Yeah.
And that is, that's fundamental. If you can do that, that'll certainly help. And the final piece is, I bang on about it a lot on LinkedIn and drive people around the bend internally and externally. And that's have a sales methodology, a process. I follow something called MedPicker. It's an adaptation of MedPick. But the reason why that's so important is if you look at all the top performing athletes or sports people in the world, they have a routine that they follow. When Tiger Woods is putting for the Masters, he's got to sink an 18-footer to win. He has a routine that he goes through. And that routine gives him the confidence and relieves the pressure, because he's done it so many times and he's refined it and he knows what he's doing. It's the same with people, when Johnny Wilkinson kicked the winning drop goal. He'd done that thousands of times in practice. He had a routine. He knew exactly what to do. And it's the same in sales. You have a routine, you have a methodology, you have a process, and you follow that and refine that. And then you'll find that when the pressure does come and when deals start going wrong, which they always do, because customers never follow a timeline that they lay out. Competition always does unexpected things. But if you've got that process and that routine, you can fall back on and follow that. You'll be way more successful and you'll win way more deals than you'll lose.
100%. And, that's a really good point you make. And, relating it back to, high performing athletes. But if we think of our own personal daily lives as well, when, someone comes into the office and says, right, I want to lose a bit of weight. I want to do this. I want to, get skilled up on X, Y, and Z. It's all about consistency, isn't it? So you've got to have that plan in place that that you're going to stick to, and over time, you are going to reap the rewards if you stick to a certain plan, which is what you were just mentioning there. So, the rest of this year, you've talked about, how the landscape of sales has changed and everything. What 2 things are you doing, or are you going to get the team to be doing to win for the rest of the year?
We're going to be doing two of the things about, world-class basics and being ruthlessly simplistic. And we're also going to be talking about like good isn't enough.
Yeah.
To be the top performers and to be at the level that's needed, especially in a difficult climate and marketplace, you need to be constantly looking at where you can improve, and you've got to be able to look yourself in the mirror every morning and think, I didn't do X, Y, and Z well yesterday, or I could have done that better in that demo, or I think I need to add a few more things to the mutually agreed plan with customer Y. So it's about making sure that that you're constantly improving, and being very ruthless in the simplicity when things get tough, and just being really good at the basics of like sales and business.
Yeah, 100%. And what are you sort of reading up on at the moment? What are you doing, in your sort of the time that you're not getting down to your job in those working hours, and I know they can be long working hours as well. Outside of that, is there any books, podcasts, anything that's actually helped you, be successful over the past few years or months?
I use an app called Headaway, which is basically
Okay.
like a like books over very different genres. But what it does is it sort of it boils them down into 15-minute snippets, and summarizes them well. And so I always try and do at least two of those, sessions a day on different things. And then from that, I'll pick certain books that I want to read or authors. And this one I'm reading at the moment is Matt Said. It's
Okay.
Black Box Thinking. My SE right hand man, Lee Duff, got me onto that, and that is about marginal gains and secrets of high performance, which I find really interesting and
Yeah.
fascinating. And it follows, the ethos that I really subscribe to. Find 50 things in any discipline that you can do 1% better, or even 0.5% better, and already you've got a significant increase in performance
Yeah.
just by making small incremental increases in how you perform or how you do those smaller steps.
Amazing. Really good. And you personally, how do you actually switch off from this job? Obviously your mind can go, you can keep going every single day, when you're taking mini breaks. I find in sales it is very hard. If you've got a couple of days off work, it is very, very hard to actually switch your brain off and not think about, that RFP that you've got to attend to, or that deal that you're really trying hard to get the team to get over the line when you've got a few days off. But how do you actually unwind, relax? You're in a tough sales job. Every day it's tough in sales. You're coming in, your mind can't switch off sometimes, even if you have a couple of days off work. There might be like a deal that your team's trying to get over the line. You really want to close something. How do you actually switch off and de-stress from this job?
Yeah, it's good, and it's very important to be able to switch off. I'm fortunate that I have a young family, so I've got two young girls, and so my weekends are I'm pretty much an Uber driver at the weekend, and I don't get paid, and I certainly don't get 5 stars. Um, Ferrying them around to different sporting activities, they're both, um, you know, tennis and swimming and netball uh, and hockey when it's in the sort of autumn winter time. So that is basically my weekend. Family is very important to me, and like I always say to other people, sales leaders and salespeople, like your kids are the best way to stay grounded because they don't care what deal daddy's working on. They don't care how far you are ahead or behind the number. Um, they just want you there, present, not on your phone, doing stuff, cheering away, having a laugh. Um, and so that's essentially what we do. We've just started I live in Southwest London, so we
Amazing.
like a burger. So we're going around to all the
Lush.
burger restaurants, rating them out of 10 to score and find the best burger in Southwest London. So those are the sort of things that I do. I love cooking, and I play the drums, and that also helps because
Play the drums. How good are you on the drums?
I'm not bad. I'm not bad. I've done it for a few years now, or yeah, since school. But then those sort of things really help because they use parts of the brain that just I don't think about anything other
Yeah.
than what I'm listening to and what I'm playing. So
Amazing.
yeah, those are the things that I tend to get up to.
Great. Well, there's loads to go up there for everyone listening. So I really appreciate, you coming on and giving your advice and your tips there. I mean, just to finish off, who is Dan as a person? What have you got going on this year? Now you introduce yourself as very senior sales leader in the market that you join in this company. So, what is the plans for you personally and professionally now for this year, Dan?
Well, yeah, we've got a very busy period coming up. We've got a lot going on at Certes. Really, some really interesting partnerships. We're very fortunate to count some very large financial and government institutions as customers. So I'll be out meeting those. We've got some excellent opportunities bubbling away as well. So I'll be on a plane a lot over to the US and out into Europe and the Middle East and out into Asia as well. So there'll be a lot of traveling and taking advantage of the opportunity that's presented itself to us over what's essentially happening in the cyber threat landscape.
Amazing.
And then we're about to also start some building work, which is
Okay.
never
That's always fun.
it's never ideal. So that'll be fun. And then trying to get away with the family. We'll get out and get away for a couple of weeks, spend some time, just with the kids and with my wife. She also has a pretty big job at Amazon. So
Oh,
that
amazing.
is important. And and we'll be away with some friends and just, probably eat, drink and be merry.
Amazing stuff. How often would you say to, salespeople, I know that there's not a rough time scale that they should be taking breaks and stuff, but, do you give yourself like a set allocated, time out of the year that you're like, no, this is personal time. This is when I need to have my family time and my time away and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's interesting actually. I always tell the salespeople, when you go away, turn your phone off. Don't answer emails. If I need you, I'll text you. That's how they know it's urgent. And likewise, I try and step away from email and regular meetings, etc. But you can never switch off really. So you've got to have that mechanism in place to be able to say that when you're needed, you're there. But the biggest things I can say is leave your phone if you're on holiday. Leave your phone in the villa or in the hotel room. I know it's difficult with everyone wanting to post on Instagram and whatnot and take pictures of their food and share it with all of their followers, etc. But that is the biggest piece of advice I can give. Leave your phone in the villa, in the hotel room, away from you, so that you can really, be in the moment and watch your kids jumping in and out the pool, enjoy the sunshine, and the downtime. Read a book if that's what you want to get into. For me, I'm normally in and out of the swimming pool, getting jumped on, getting splashed, whatever. So reading a book is not always possible.
Amazing. No, that's really good advice. And, just want to say again, thanks so much for coming on, Dan. And thanks everyone for listening. I hope it's helped everyone that's out there listening to our podcasts at the moment. And good luck to you and the team for the rest of the year. I hope it's a really good one for you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Chloe. I really enjoyed it. Great initiative.
Thanks. Take care.